EIA, a process to evaluate or to assess the environmental impact of the proposed project or certain development that going to take over. Let's say you want to do the development in those areas, so you need to consider, you need to evaluate what is the effect of your development project into the environment. Okay. Yeah, I still need to sometimes need to admit your friend that asked to join. Okay, so now 53. So only 2 have not able to join us. So it's quite good. Attendance quite good today. Okay, so that is for the definition. Okay, in a simpler word or in short, it is a systematic process. Process systematic to identify, predict, and evaluate the environmental effect of proposed project development. So very simple. So that is why we conduct the EIA, the environmental impact assessment, to evaluate, to predict, or to identify any environmental effect, whether good or bad, to the proposed project. Normally the development lah, kita nak buat sesuatu pembangunan kat sesuatu tempat tu, we need to conduct the EIA process. Okay. So very clear, yeah, for the EIA. Okay, next is the purpose. We already know the definition. Then let's take a look the purpose of EIA. So it's very simple. There are 2 listed purpose here. The first one is to provide information, yeah, for decision making on the environmental consequences or effect of the proposed action or project. Kita nak bagi information kepada pihak yang berwajib, pihak-pihak decision making, for example government or other NGO or other stakeholders that invest the money into the project about the environmental consequences or environmental effect, kesan alam sekitar yang disebabkan oleh pembangunan tersebut. So very simple. And then at the same time, we want to try to promote environmentally sound and sustainable development. So this is very important. Everything we are doing, we must consider the sustainable development. Mesti melalui sustainable development. Okay. That is the purpose. Okay, then why EIA is needed? When we want to conduct a certain development, we must, everybody must actually conduct the EIA. Mesti ada sebenarnya EIA ni. Okay, so this is the reason. Because to enable the project proponent and the relevant government authorities to monitor impact of the project within the lifespan of the project on the immediate environment. Maksudnya sebelum sesuatu pembangunan tu dijalankan, kita adakan EIA ni untuk evaluate kesan-kesan project within the lifespan of the project, sama ada sepanjang projek tu berjalan, pembangunan tu berjalan terhadap persekitaran, sama ada immediate environment, segera ataupun dalam jangka masa yang panjang. Okay, so kita nak evaluate semua kesan-kesan yang disebabkan oleh pembangunan ini terhadap alam sekitar. Very important. Okay, by doing so, the government and relevant authorities, pihak-pihak yang terlibat, are able to manage the environment for the well-being of the society. So kalau ada kesan negatif, so the government and relevant authorities boleh take action immediately lah untuk elakkan, to avoid the negative impact to the environment yang boleh akan menjejaskan well-being of the society, kesejahteraan penduduk. Okay, so what are the aims and objective? Okay, I already split here the aim and objective. Macam sama je kan, aim and objective. Actually, it is different. So let's take a look here. What is the difference between aim and objective of EIA? Okay, so the aim and objective of EIA can be divided into 2 categories. Ya, 2 kategori, whether immediate or long term. Sama ada kesan dia segera ataupun jangka masa panjang. So the immediate aim of EIA is to inform, nak bagi tahu je the process of decision making by identifying the potentially significant environmental effect and risk of development proposal. Kita nak bagi tahu je kesan alam sekitar ni terhadap projek itu tadi. Okay. Next is immediate. Okay, so immediate objective ada. The first one is to improve the environmental design of the proposal. Kita nak improve lah lagi. Kalau propose project kita tu menyebabkan kesan negatif pada alam sekitar, kita nak perbaiki untuk mengurangkan to reduce the environmental impact from our project development. Okay, and then the second one is to ensure that resources are used appropriately and efficiently. Kita nak pastikan bahan-bahan mentah semua tu yang terlibat digunakan dengan berhemah dan efisien, ya. And then to identify appropriate measures for mitigating the potential impact of the proposal. If there is a bad effect, so we want to try identify what kind of measure that can be taken to avoid those negative impact, ya, langkah pencegahan lah. And then lastly, to facilitate informing decision making, including setting the environmental terms and condition for implementing the proposal. Kita nak bantulah pihak-pihak berwajib macam government ke untuk buat dasar lah, ataupun undang-undang ke, something like that lah, environmental term and condition for implementing the proposal, untuk membolehkan proposal atau pembangunan kita ni dijalankan dengan mengambil kira the sustainable development. Okay, now let's take a look on the long term, or also can be called as ultimate, ya. Long term is ultimate aim of EIA. Ada satu je, ya. To promote sustainable development. So you can see here the word sustainable development is quite important, ya. Kita nak pastikan semua projek pembangunan kita tu must have this characteristic, sustainable development. How? By ensuring that development proposal do not undermine critical resource, tak terlebih gunalah critical resource yang macam orang kata non-renewable resources, and also the ecological function or the well-being of the society, lifestyle and livelihood and so on lah. So that is the very long-term ultimate aim of EIA. Okay, so long term objective, kalau objektif ni dia macam panjang, short sikit, ya. Kalau aim tu macam panjang sikit dia punya ayat. Itu je beza aim dengan objektif. Aim ni ayat dia tu macam panjang dan agak generally, ya. Kalau objektif ni dia very specific sikit. So simple je ayat dia. To protect human health and safety, avoid irreversible changes and serious damage to the environment. Very simple, very straight saja dia punya objektif. And then the third one, safeguard valued resources, natural areas and ecosystem component. And lastly, to enhance the social aspect of the proposal. Kita nak jaga jugalah human well-being, ya, daripada projek kita. Okay, so this is the specific objective. Ada juga yang lebih specific objective of EIA. So there are 5 here. I think you can just go through to examine and select the most appropriate development option available whenever possible. Kita nak pilih yang terbaik lah, projek pembangunan yang terbaik sekiranya ada yang kurang memberikan kesan negatif kepada alam sekitar. And then the second one is to identify, predict and wherever possible, quantify the significance of any adverse impact on the community and environment. Kalau ada apa-apa kesan negatif, kita nak cuba kenal pasti apakah kesan negatif yang dibawakan oleh pembangunan tersebut terhadap komuniti, masyarakat ataupun terhadap persekitaran kita. And then the third one is to formulate and incorporate appropriate abatement and mitigating measures. Nak ambil langkah pencegahan yang bersesuaian, ya, into the development plan. And then to determine appropriate and effective program for monitoring environmental compliance and residual plans. Kita nak menentukan program yang lebih efektif lah untuk kita monitor, untuk kita macam lihat pembangunan yang dibawakan ke situ tu dalam konsisten lah, kesan dia tu ada ke tak kesan negatif daripada pembangunan kat situ. So we want to monitor those development consistently. Okay. And then lastly, to identify wherever possible the environmental cost and benefit of the development activity. Kena tentukan jugalah kos pembangunan tersebut terhadap environment dan juga faedah yang dibawakan oleh pembangunan tersebut. Sama ada berbaloi ke tak pembangunan itu dibawa ke situ dengan kita sacrifice kita punya environmental resources. Berbaloi ke tidak. So kita akan kenal pasti semua tu. Okay, so this is the benefit of EIA. Okay, first it present information required by the authorities in a structured manner. Dia memberikan maklumat kepada pihak berwajib ni dalam bentuk yang lebih structure lah, lebih efficient, lebih senang untuk di-assess. And then it allows the project team to systematically evaluate the potential environmental problem from a proposed development. Means that untuk EIA ni dia ada satu team lah yang akan evaluate apa saja masalah persekitaran yang disebabkan oleh pembangunan tersebut. So senang project team ni untuk evaluate. So kita ada AIA ni yang bagi report kat dia. So this is the report from AIA. So project team akan tengok daripada report tu whether this development sesuai ke tidak. Okay, and then the third one is it can reduce cost and time by identifying and quantifying primary and secondary consequences. Kita boleh kurangkan juga kos dan juga masa dengan mengenal pasti siap-siap kesan-kesan daripada pembangunan tersebut, kesan primary, kesan secondary dia, kesan secara langsung dan secara tak langsung lah. Okay, so kita nak kurangkan kos lah. For example, kita boleh, we can introduce the expensive pollution control measures. Kalau kita nak guna kaedah yang mahal, macam nak control pencemaran, tapi kaedah dia agak mahal. So berbaloi ke kita nak buat pembangunan kat situ? Mungkin tak berbaloi lah. So kita akan ada semualah evaluate cost and time, whether it is efficient ke tak. And then lastly, it assists in establishing long-term management objective and plans and enhancing organization environmental image. Samalah dia nak establish the long-term management for this development ya, dalam jangka masa yang panjang. The development does not negatively affect the environment and society. Okay, ini continuation dia sampai 8 objective. I think it's a very straight to the point, a project that has been designed to suit the local environment. Persekitaran local most likely can be completed on time. Maksudnya kalau projek yang kita nak bangunkan tu sesuai dengan keperluan persekitaran masyarakat ke, persekitaran kita ke, boleh kita siapkan dalam masa dan bajet yang telah ditetapkan, so that we can avoid difficulties along the way, mengurangkan orang kata pembaziran lah. Kejap. Okay. Okay, a project that conserve the natural resources, project yang mengekalkan natural resources ni relies upon will continue to be sustainable for many years. Ini sesuai lah, dia akan memastikan pembangunan secara inilah sustainable development for many years. Okay, and then a project that yield benefit without causing serious environmental problem is more likely to bring credit. Baguslah kalau pembangunan tu tidak memberi kesan yang negatif sangat kepada persekitaran, kita akan bagi dia mungkin anugerah ke apa ke, and then recognition ataupun anugerah lah, macam anugerah lah kepada syarikat terbabit proponents ya, yang terlibat. And then lastly, it prevents costly remedial consequences and prevent untoward incident happen to users and community at large. So maksudnya kita nak elakkan kesan-kesan yang macam mempengaruhi kesihatan komuniti ke, yang boleh menambahkan lagi kos kepada pembangunan tersebut. And then ada incident happen, mungkin kesihatan dari segi healthy of the community kita kena consider lah. So kita nak prevent lah consequences ni, okay, at large ya, pada ni lah skala yang lebih besar. Okay, however, there are certain limitation of EIA. Ada juga lah faktor yang menyebabkan the implementation of EIA is being hindered. Dilaksanakan. Adalah faktor-faktor yang menyebabkan memberi kesukaran kepada pelaksanaan EIA yang efisien. Okay, so the first one is, although EIA helps in the proper environmental consideration of all advantages and disadvantages of a proposal, it cannot be expected to stop a proposal. Maksudnya kalau ada proposal pembangunan yang nak buat macam let's say taman shopping complex ke kat certain area tu, tapi banyak kesan negatif dia, katakan adalah daripada analisis risiko tu semua ada kesan negatif kepada environment, so mungkin walaupun EIA ni dijalankan tapi dia tak boleh, it cannot be expected to stop a proposal. Pembangunan tu tetap akan dijalankan juga walaupun mungkin EIA punya team cakap ni tak sesuai, kita buat kat sini. Katakan buat kat kawasan bukit ke apa ke, mungkin akan jadi landslide ke apa ke, kan tanah runtuh ke apa semua. Tapi kalau dia nak buat juga, dia akan teruskan juga. So the EIA process cannot solely stop the development. Tak boleh sebenarnya. Dia boleh propose kesan-kesan tu, tapi those authorities, pihak yang berwajib, dia boleh ambil kira sama ada nak teruskan atau tidak. Itu adalah bergantung kepada dia punya pendapat dia. Mungkin dia ada duit lebih ke apa yang nak buat juga. It's up to them, because the PIA hanya keluarkan kata just report sahaja kan, analisis. So dia tak ada kuasa nak menghentikan those proposed development. Okay, I see. The final decision about a proposal depends upon the likely severity of the adverse effect balance against other expected benefit. Mungkinlah dia akan final decision tu bergantung kepada tu lah severity of the adverse effect. Kalau macam adverse effect tu dia boleh macam control, katakan invest sikit money untuk kawal let's say macam landslide, dia adalah nak buat tambak tanah ke macam mana, is up to that itulah authorities. And then the third one, environmental consideration may therefore be set aside in favor of what are felt to be more important consideration. Macam saya cakap tadi lah, bergantung kepada those authorities sama ada dia nak terima ke tidak proposal ataupun EIA that have been proposed to the project. Okay. Okay, kat sini macam traditional economic and technical factors. Some of you might think, what is technical factor? So I just add some slide here to help you understanding the technical and non-technical factors in the disaster risk factors here. For example, technical factor, we have the environment, physical, for example, construction, building material, and so on. Health and safety of the community and also the technology involved. Ya, macam-macam lah teknologi kalau nak bina bangunan yang besar-besar ke, skyscrapers, bangunan pencakar langit ke. So we have all kind of the technology, all kind of engineering system. So this one is under the technical factors. And other than these technical factors, we call it as non-technical, involving the socio, economics, and so on lah. Okay, so this is the area covered in the IA. We have 6 area here, so we will discuss one by one. For example, the first one is the societal settings. So this is the what you call as the societal setting of EIA. A good knowledge of the society is important in the preparation of EIA. Means that sebelum team EIA ni buat analisis, dia akan nak macam ada like let's say kind of interview with the local community. Macam kalau kita nak bina taman, let's say taman Legoland ke kat sini, dia akan tanyalah community sesuai ke tak, apa pendapat encik semua pakcik, local community lah. So they have this kind of survey. So this is the societal settings. Okay, a good EIA practice must identify how members of the local communities become involved in the public issues and must understand the implication of development on the society's well-being. Itulah macam saya cakap. Kalau good EIA yang betul-betul practice yang sepatutnya, dia mesti tanyalah, ambil kira semua community tersebut, pendapat community ni. Sebabnya public issue ni kan. So nak bina pembangunan kat situ, so dia kena tanyalah pendapat local community dan juga kesan tu akan sebab kesan tu akan dialami oleh community terbabit apabila pembangunan ini dijalankan. So the society's well-being. That's why they need to take into consideration the local community. Okay, so this is the sum of the relevant information that can be included in the societal setting. We have the, kita ambil kira lah population, density, growth, mortality and health, quality of life, access to education, culture, language and so on lah. So this is relevant information when you are doing the EIA process. You need to know all these kind of things. Okay. Next, in term of law, policies and development approval. Kita sebab EIA dia melibatkan undang-undang juga ya, dan beberapa polisi, it is must abide to the certain law and policies and also the development approval yang memberi kebenaran ya, yang meluluskan sesuatu pembangunan tu. Okay, so they must get the subsequent approval in Malaysia and in any country is bound by the law and policies. Then normally this policies is relevant to the environment, yang berkaitan dengan alam sekitar. Okay, some of the laws and policies relevant to environment include, okay, that is the laws and policies. We have the International Convention, okay, pollution control standard, natural resource management, okay, so and so on. So you can just take a look. I will just list it here. Contoh polisi yang terlibat dengan pembangunan yang melibatkan environments. Okay, next is access to information. So we must know that an EIA report is a good information source that accessible to everyone. Means that the EIA report must be orang kata transparent. Dia kena bagi tahu kalau macam kesan ni tak baiklah, akan adverse effect. Maksudnya kesan kepada alam sekitar tu banyak, dia kena cakap banyak lah, tak boleh nak macam sembunyi-sembunyi. Tak, dia mesti transparent. So this is what we call that access to information. EIA report mesti everyone can access it. Okay, thus it is important to have a good access to information when conducting and preparing an AIA report. Ya, maksudnya kita kena make our report is available to everyone. Kena transparent, semua orang boleh access. Ya, bukan kerajaan saja, rakyat pun kena tahu apa kesan negatif pembangunan yang nak dibawa ke kawasan mereka. Okay, so the important information in the EIA can be obtained, ya, boleh diperolehi from the following. Whether local knowledge, local knowledge ni maksudnya whether the professional expert, pendapat profesional macam professor or researcher from university, or traditional. Kita boleh juga tanya dengan orang tua kat kampung tu yang ada pengalaman, ketua-ketua kampung and so on, ya. Pasal itulah sejarah katakan dekat kawasan tersebut. Okay. And then this is one I mentioned, scientific research by universities and government, inventory and baseline study. So this is how the EIA information can be obtained. Kita boleh dapat, ya. State, negeri, ya, yang buat environment report dia oleh kerajaan negeri lah, laporan persekitaran oleh kerajaan negeri, ya. Setiap kerajaan negeri kena keluarkan laporan persekitaran, macam kes kat Kedah semua hari tu kan, kes apa ya, banjir kilat tu kan. So kerajaan Kedah dia kena keluarkan laporan lah kenapa berlaku. So that kind of report also can be used to EIA. Kita boleh dapat juga maklumat daripada situ. Mapping geological, GIS lah ni kan, GIS. I rasa FSB student ada yang ambil course ni kan. Land use and also the planning, zoning. Okay, so this is the kind of information that can be obtained for our EIA report. Okay, this is yang saya mention tadi lah. We have GIS, a system that create, manage, analyze and map all type of data. We also have the World Wildlife Fund, WWF. Also this one is involved in the wildlife conservation and endangered species. Sebabnya macam kita nak bangunkan sesuatu pembangunan tempat macam besar, aku nak bina shopping complex dekat tanah yang digazetted, yang macam tengah-tengah bandar ada tanah yang besar, terus kita ambil kira semua. Ataupun nak buat Legoland yang makan banyak space kan, tanah yang telah dipelihara ke apa ke. So dia kena ambil kira semua tu lah, wildlife conservation dan juga species yang endangered. And then we also have the National Agendas 21s. So yang ni akan dibincangkan lebih detail saat lagi, because it is outline the global strategies for cleaning up the environment and encouraging the environmentally sound development. Okay, National Agenda ni dia macam satu strategi untuk kita mengawal alam sekitar kita dengan encourage the environmental sound development, pembangunan yang inilah menjaga keseimbangan alam sekitar lah. And then we also have the biodiversity conservation and also the district office report. Ya, ini by kerajaan negeri lah. Kita ada juga laporan daripada pihak ni lah, district office ni, pihak pejabat tanah. Okay, next, environments. Okay, before we conduct in an EIA, it is important to know the current and potential major environmental problem. Kena tahulah isu-isu semasa ataupun pressure facing by our country, isu semasa yang dihadapi oleh negara kita, ya. For example, some example of environmental problem facing by our country. Okay, I listed here. We have the climate change, ya. Kadang-kadang tiba-tiba panas, El Nina, lepas tu tiba-tiba macam hujan, La Nina, semua tu lah. So that kind of climate change. Water supply and water quality. Ada juga setengah negeri yang ada isu dengan water supply kan, macam Selangor. Kita kena tahulah semualah. Biodiversity and habitat loss, industrial pollution, agricultural production and practice, deforestation, ya, yang penerokaan hutan untuk for the logging purpose and so on. So we need to know the status and the current issue by our country and so on lah. You can just take a look. Okay, so this is some example. Sama lah, environmental legislation, sorry misspell there, policies and regulation, ya, undang-undang yang berkaitan dengan environment. We have the designation of protected areas, ya, kita ada kawasan yang kita lindungi macam hutan simpan and so on. Okay, sustainable development strategies, national conservation or biodiversity strategies, and state of environmental report. Ini yang laporan daripada kerajaan negeri tadi and so on lah. Okay, then we have the EIA process. Okay, the consultant involved in the preparation of EIA must be well versed of the EIA process. Maksudnya konsultan tu orang yang terlibat menyediakan laporan EIA ni, dia mesti seorang yang berpengetahuan luas di dalam EIA. And actually to be appointed as the EIA consultant, you need to actually follow a certain or get something like license lah, macam tu lah, dia kena lesen, dia kena ada menghadiri kursus-kursus tertentu sebelum dia dilantik menjadi consultant EIA. Okay, so for example, orang ni mesti previous experience in IA, dia dah ada background dalam EIA, mungkin kat universiti dah pernah belajar, macam awak ni belajar sikit je kan, aku mungkin ada special course by DOA, development pula ada Department of Jabatan Alas Kita yang akan conduct this special course, ada juga ya. And then availability level and distribution of expertise, kita kena ada pelbagai expertise dalam EIA tu. Dia ada macam EIA consultant sendiri, ada engineering, ada arkitek, dia akan bergabung bersamalah untuk bincangkan pelbagai kesan terhadap alam sekitar. Ini kalau melibatkan macam pollution semua tu kan, dia nak buka kilang ke apa, dia kena ada dapat medical expertise, pendapat daripada medical ataupun kemis ke tentang ada yang nak join tentang kesan kepada alam sekitar. Dia kena dapatlah pendapat daripada ni lah pakar perubatan. Okey, sebenarnya AI team tu dia pelbagai pihak, bukan engineer, bukan AI consultant saja, engineer semua ada yang akan bergabung membincangkan kesan-kesan yang berkaitan dengan alam sekitar tersebut. Okay, this is a factor that promotes sound decision making and barrier. Okay, this is another characteristic lah for the consultant EIA. You can just take a look later on. Okay, so this is the consultant, another characteristic for the EIA consultant in the preparation of IMA. Okay, macam dah, is it the repetition? Oh no, this is the more like the sambungan saja ya. Clear description of the proposal. Dia kena tahulah tentang proposal tu pasal apa. Comprehensive term of reference established. Kalau ada term-term yang kurang faham, dia kena refer lah. Kena macam let's say kalau macam dia tak ada background pasal kemis, katakan bahan-bahan kimia yang berbahaya kepada masyarakat apabila dilepaskan ke environment. So dia kena dapatkan kemis view lah. Kena masukkan juga kemis dalam team dia tu. That's why dia kena come out dengan comprehensive term yang mudah difahami ya. Reference established. Screening and scoping process applied systematically. Ni proses screening and scoping ni kamu akan belajar lebih detail bila kita nak conduct EIA, apa proses yang terlibat. So we started from screening and then scoping. Macam itulah saya akan tunjuk lepas ni apakah proses-proses yang terlibat in preparation of the EIA report. Okay, ni very straight to the point. And then lastly, we also have the public involvement provided. Nampak, kita still kena dapatkan public involvement, kena dapatkan pendapat ataupun kena maklumkan kepada society yang terlibat sesuatu proposed development yang kita nak jalankan. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, last, the key stakeholders in the EIA process. Apakah pihak yang terlibat di dalam proses EIA ni? Okay. So we must have the first, identify the level of relevant professional and technical skill available in carrying out the assessment. Macam saya cakap tadi, kita kena kenal pasti orang-orang ataupun pihak profesional dan pihak teknikal yang diperlukan di dalam tim kita tadi. Kalau kita nak buat macam let's say pembangunan projek perumahan dekat mana-mana tanah terbiak. So kita kena ada arkitek, kena ada engineer, and then kena ada macam yang EIA consultant sendiri, and then kena ada yang macam ahli geologi ke, dia nak check sama ada tanah tu sesuai ke tak nak dibina rumah kan. So that kind of team yang kita kena decide dalam inilah EIA proses yang kena ada dalam team EIA tu untuk dia come out dengan proposal. And then second, must identify the major stakeholder in the EIA process. Adalah major stakeholder, for example, developers lah. Kalau nak buat rumah tu, pemaju yang buat rumah. So kita kena identify lah, this is the major stakeholders ya. Environmental and implementing agency, consultant, decision makers. Decision maker ni macam government sendirilah. And the public, especially those directly affected by the proposal. Public ni macam kalau kita nak bina shopping complex dekat sesuatu taman perumahan tu kan. So kita kena tanyalah masyarakat yang tinggal kat situ, buat survey sikit, something like that. And then third, evaluate the following. Kena evaluate the following criteria. The first one is the role. Kita kena decide lah the role or influence stakeholder have over the AI process. Kita kena beritahu, okay, macam kau developers, kau kena buat ni. Kita dah macam, dah bagi dah guideline kat dia kena buat apa. When and how they become involved in the AI process. Bila khidmat mereka diperlukan. Once we completed, dapat approval daripada mana-mana, let's say the government approve the project, then baru kita boleh ni lah approach the developers to proceed with the development process, ya. Dia accountability in their process, maksudnya boleh percaya mereka sendirilah. Sama ada background dia tu macam bagus, katakan developers ni macam bagus, kalau dia buat projek perumahan siap sepenuhnya, tak ada terbengkalai. That kind of orang kata accountability yang kita kena tengok juga, ya. The barriers to them performing their task satisfactorily. Kalau ada kekangan-kekangan lain ke, political issue ke apa semua dengan developers tu kan, duk bertukar sahaja CEO ke apa ke, macam mega holding bertukar sahaja, konflik dalam masa, tak nak lah. Okay, kita kena nilai semualah. And then the extent to which each stakeholder has knowledge of the role. Kita kena tengok semua. Dia ni betul-betul tahu tak, macam developers tu betul tahu tak macam mana roles dia sendiri. Okay, the extent to which they work together cooperatively, dia orang juga kena ni lah, beri kerjasama. And then the degree to which information is shared. So kalau ada apa-apa information tu jangan selindung-selindung, kena telus lah, orang kata pakat share the important information, ya. Okay. So this is the orang kata like I already wrap up all the things that we have discussed from the previous slide. Generally, it is very important to understand the assessment of environmental impact. Ini je kita nak memahami kesan sesuatu pembangunan itu terhadap alam sekitar, of which closely related to the review or assessment of other process that may result from a proposed project. Dia saling berkaitlah dengan masyarakat, dengan alam sekitar, dengan government, other NGO, other stakeholders, banyak benda yang akan kita kena we have to deal with. Okay. Okay, the other assessment, okay, kita juga ada beberapa assessment lain. For example, we have the social impact assessment, risk assessment, life cycle analysis, energy analysis, and all those things. So this is other assessment that can be also kata perform under this EIA. Okay. So sampai situ, we already come out to the half of our lecture today. Okay, next. The nature and scope of environmental issues and impact. Okay, this is the nature and scope environmental impact lah yang biasa berlaku lah dalam general environmental issue. For example, we have the water scarcity, land degradation, deforestation, biodiversity loss, and also the climate warming. So this is the very common issue that is related to the environment. Okay. In Malaysia, some of the issues are, okay, kat Malaysia ini isu dia, rapid economic growth, urbanization, industrialization that can cause increased pressure on land and water resource. Biasalah kalau dah ada pembangunan, industrialization, dia akan memberi kesan negatif kepada ni lah, tanah dan juga water resource. Okay. And pollution. Okay, two categories of environmental issues. For example, we have the green agendas and the brown agenda. Okay, so this is the environmental issues that we have the focus or the law, like policy, to control this environmental issue. We have the green agenda and the brown agendas. Okay, what is the green agendas? It is focused on natural resources, natural resource management and environmental protection issue. Dia green ni macam green lah, senang nak ingat, more like environment. Ya, dia macam mana nak kekalkan pengurusan yang systematic untuk natural resources. Okay, kalau brown agendas ni concern with industrial pollution, waste management and urban development. Dia lebih kepada pencemaran yang disebabkan oleh industri, pengurusan sisa buangan dan juga pembangunan bandar. Okay, so this is for the brown agenda. So this is the two laws that we have that is quietly related to the environment. Ya, kita ada dua ni ya, green agendas and brown agendas. Okay, next, the nature of environmental impact. Kita ada the impact of development proposal examined in IA can be direct or indirect. Kesan dia tu sama ada boleh secara langsung ataupun tidak langsung. Okay, kalau langsung ni macam mana? Example, the direct effect of toxic discharge on air and water supply. Let's say dah buka kilang kat situ, dia tiba-tiba dia tak manage dia punya chemical waste properly. So it can cause the direct effect, ya. To the ni lah community because they are toxic discharge, okay, on air or water. And for the indirect effect, for example, on human health from exposure to particles or contaminant which have built up in a food chain. Macam let's say kalau dia buat kilang tu lepaskan sisa buangan toksik ke laut, and then laut nelayan pergi yang kata tangkap ikan ke kerang ke, let's say so bila penduduk sekitar situ consume seafood, dia akan ni lah build up dia sikit-sikit, dia bukan terus dapat penyakit, katakan cancer tiba-tiba terus dapat, tidak, dia akan build up in a food chain, lama-lama baru dia akan affected. So that is the indirect effect from the pollution, ya. Okay, so other environmental and social impact induced. Okay, so this is another example. We have the new road opening up and undeveloped area will result new settlement. Kalau kita buka jalan baru, kita kena tahulah apakah kawasan yang belum diteroka tu akan terima apa kesan dia. Kalau buka jalan, pencemaran lah katakan kepada alam sekitar yang berdekatan tu lah. Okay. Okay, so this is another example. Okay, you can just take a look later on. This is more like indirect effect, yeah. Okay, so let's see the principle of EIA administration and practice in Malaysia. Kita tengok kat Malaysia sendiri macam mana. Okay, actually EIA is one of a number of policy tool that are used to evaluate the proposed project. Biasanya sesuatu projek pembangunan tu kita akan buat EIA lah. Dia satu macam policy tool. Dia satu diperlukan lah sebelum sesuatu pembangunan tu dijalankan, is a like a tool that can be used to assess the effect of the certain development to the environment. So we use EIA. Okay, in Malaysia, the first EIA legislation introduced in 1987. Ni kali pertama yang diperkenalkan, ya, EIA yang undang-undang yang berkaitan dengan EIA. The first time is introduced in 1987, and then banyaklah progress yang berlaku selepas tu. And then there's another in April 1988. Okay, we have the Environmental Impact Assessment Order. In English is DOE. Okay, 1987 ni maksudnya dia improvekan daripada yang tahun 1987. Dia akan come up with a new one, dia improve, and then dia akan dia panggil prescribed activities lah, yang lama 1987, yang baru 88. And then it is model the national environment. Okay, ni daripada tahun 19, kita ambil ni daripada United States, dia punya ni National Environmental Policy Act, or also known as NEPA, and in 1969. So kita modified from here to come out with the country legislation regarding the EIA. Okay. Okay, inilah Environmental Quality Act EQA in 1974. Okay, kita juga ada Environmental Quality Act ni maksudnya yang dasar kualiti alam sekitar tahun 1974 dah ada, tapi kita tak stress kepada EIA assessment. So kita dapatkan daripada sinilah, kita dapat idea daripada sini jugalah untuk come out dengan ni lah the first EIA legislation. Okay, during the first 10 years of the EIA order administration, emphasis was placed on curbing pollution by means of this regulation gazetted under the Act. Kita cuba nak, semasa 10 tahun pertama pelaksanaan EIA ni, kita emphasize, kita tekankan kepada nak control pollution, okay. And then DOE was formed in 1977 to administer environmental management function including the EIA process. Kita ada juga pada tahun 1976 ni, kita just based on DOE untuk mengawal pengurusan alam sekitar, ya. Ini semua yang related dengan EIA lah, tapi secara tak langsung lah. Okay, the legislation mandate all 19 prescribed activity listed in the handbook of EIA in 1999B. Ini adalah fasa dia punya tu ada 19 prescribed activities. Saya rasa kita akan bincang masa lecture 2 nanti. Apakah aktiviti-aktiviti yang tersenarai dalam ni handbook of EIA yang kita kena pay extra attention lah to prepare environmental impact statement before a project can be approved by the Department of Environmental, ya, kerajaan Jabatan Alam Sekitar. Okay. Before this time, EIAs for major project had been conducted in Malaysia on a voluntary basis in the 1970s. Sebelum ni dia tak adalah secara formally satu badan yang betul-betul formal conduct. Dia just secara kalau orang tu macam department tu volunteer je nak apa conduct EIA, so dia buat je lah secara tak formal. Okay. Now EIA is a mandatory requirement. Sekarang dah wajib dah for all proposed project. Semua pembangunan yang nak dijalankan, kita kena jalankan EIA. So this is the current status of EIA in our country. Okay, in Sabah and Sarawak quite different because there are addition to the federal requirement. Kerajaan negeri dia ada sedikit requirement. Both state of Sabah and Sarawak have additional environmental enactment as legal requirement for all proposed project. Sebab tu macam Sabah dan Sarawak kita tak boleh sewenang-wenangnya nak macam pergi buat keluar macam ambil okey ke apa ke tak, sebab dia kerajaan Sabah dan Sarawak dia ada special pula addition federal requirement by dia ni lah kerajaan di sana. Okay, for example, for Sabah, the Environmental Impact Assessment Order 2005, which is we call it this as first and second schedule, ya, dia punya undang-undang tu came into effect in 2005, dia dilaksanakan pada tahun 2005 with 7 prescribed activities under Schedule 1 and 20 prescribed activities under Schedule 2. Dia adalah bidang-bidang yang jatuh kepada, saya akan bincang dengan detail untuk next lecture. First and second schedule, apa dia di Sabah dan juga di Sarawak. Okay, so Sarawak dia ada ni Natural Resources and Environment. Ni dia punya nama lah Amendment Ordinance 2005 which came into force dilaksanakan pada 2005 juga, 30th June. Okay, so this is the additional federal requirement in Sabah and Sarawak. Okay, dia tambahan daripada yang ada dekat Malaysia ni. Okay, so the basic guiding principle of EIA administration in Malaysia are made in reference to the framework of EIA legislation. Dia buat berdasarkan daripada ni lah undang-undang EIA itu sendiri, procedure and guidance in which the project is proposed under the jurisdiction of either federal or state. Sama ada projek yang dijalankan itu jatuh kepada perkelusan pihak kerajaan persekutuan ataupun kerajaan negeri. So dia kena dapatkan ni lah jurisdiction, whether from federal, kerajaan persekutuan atau state. For example, if the project is under the federal jurisdiction, such as anything on marine, hazardous materials, heavy industry, then it should be prepared under ni DOE legislation. Kalau yang apa yang memerlukan kelulusan federal. And for the project is a development of golf course in Sabah. Ini contoh di Sabah. Then the EIA should be prepared under the Sabah Environmental Enactment Order 2005. Sebabnya pembangunan tu nak dijalankan di Sabah, so dia kena abide dengan Sabah punya enactment order. So this is the name of the enactment order for Sabah. Okay. Okay, so this is more like a guiding principle of EIA, a good practice. Yeah, we have a few terms here for the principle. Maybe you can just read later on. For example, principle purposive. Purposive ni pada perkataan purpose lah kan. Should meet aim of informing decision making and ensuring an appropriate level. Maksudnya dia kena macam boleh memaklumkan kepada ni lah pembuat undang-undang ni on an appropriate level of environmental protection and human health, tentang apa saja kesan yang alam sekitar ni, kesan yang perlu dilakukan apa untuk protect environment dan juga kesihatan human in a generally. So ini kita panggil principle purposive. And then we have a focus principle. Ini fokus lah, dia lebih kepada concentrate on significant environmental effect, ya, kesan yang lebih apa spesifik terhadap alam sekitar. Adaptive, realities, issues and circumstances. Okay, we have the participative, transparent, rigorous, practical, credible and efficient. This is type of the principle in EIA. A good practice principle should have this kind of principle lah. Okay, you can read the explanation in detail here. Very straight to the point. Okay, next, let's take a look on the key element of EIA process. Yeah, we have 3 components in EIA process. Okay, the first one is the legal and institutional framework of regulation, guidance, and procedure, which establish the requirement for the conduct of EIA. Maksudnya badan yang legal, badan yang sah lah yang mengendalikan EIA tersebut, macam kerajaan lah. Kita ada macam-macam enactment tadi kan. Okay. And then the second component of EIA is the step and activities of the EIA process. Apa sahaja langkah-langkah dan juga aktiviti yang terlibat di dalam melaksanakan EIA process tu tadi. Okay, and the third one is the practice and performance of EIA. Maksudnya pelaksanaan dan juga macam mana performance of EIA. Itu juga adalah satu elemen di dalam proses EIA. Okay, so the first component yang saya terangkan tadi, ni nampak ni the legal and institutional framework ya, badan yang terlibat. Kita ada, for example, we have the ACTA, the Environmental Quality Enactment 1974, Amendment 1987, dia dah buat ni lah pindaan ya tahun 1987, and then we have the Sabah Environmental Enactment Order 2005, and then the Sarawak Natural Resource and Environmental Order also in 2005. So this is the like a laws lah, macam undang-undang yang terlibat dengan EIA itu tadi. Okay, this is the basic responsibility for those ni, you boleh baca lah macam mana this legal framework can be accountable or can be responsible to their EIA project. Okay. Okay, scope of application. I think this is the after the basic. Okay, this all legal framework. Dia ada basic responsibilities. Okay, and then the scope of application. Macam mana dia punya kata skop kerja dia lah. Okay, some EIA system are relatively narrow in coverage. Ada yang skop dia sangat narrow lah. Example, limited to project of a specific type and size. Maksudnya projek yang sangat limited saja lah. Ada juga. And then others have a broader scope. For example, encompassing all proposal that have potentially significant adverse environmental impact. Dia skop yang lebih luas lah. Ada juga. Okay, in addition, environment is defined broadly. For example, to include social, health and cumulative effect. Maksudnya environment tu, kesan kepada environment tu dia kena define secara meluas. Bukan sahaja kepada alam sekitar tapi juga termasuk ni lah social, economic of the human, health and also other cumulative effect. Macam tadi kan, kalau ada yang kesan pollution katakan kepada rantaian makanan, food chain. So the cumulative effect is actually in a long term. Orang tu akan dapat sakit tu dalam masa yang lama, yang panjang. Apa kesan dia? Itu yang kita panggil cumulative effect. Okay. The inclusion of this broader aspect of IA are now accepted as the international standard of good practice. Kita dah mula terima lah broader aspect of IA now accepted ya, dah diterima sebagai satu a good practice and their coverage should be mandatory dan sepatutnya kita lebih memperkenalkannya secara meluas lah. Okay, next the consideration of alternative. Okay, in Malaysia it is mandatory, wajib ya, in IA system. Okay, a range of alternative to a proposal are required for the evaluation and comparison of alternatives as part of the process. Maksudnya kalau ada apa-apa alternatif, jalan apa penyelesaian kepada masalah tu dia kena define here ya, untuk evaluation and comparison. Setiap alternatif ataupun setiap mitigation strategies tu kita provide here, kita evaluate dan kita buat comparison which one is the best strategies ya. Okay, at a minimum, explicit provision should be made for the consideration of the main alternative, a main or alternative to a proposal, including no action. Maksudnya, provision should be made for the, okay, maksudnya simple je lah. Paling simple pun explicit provision should be made for the consideration of the main alternative, for the main or alternative to a proposal. Maksudnya, the proposal kita tu, kita kena consider semua lah. Very simple. Consider semua efek-efek yang mungkin berlaku ya, efek-efek yang mungkin akan berlaku daripada proposed development kita tadi, project tadi. Okay, so this component is a critical determinant of effective EIA. So komponen-komponen sangat penting lah untuk memastikan EIA yang effective have been conducted. Okay, next is public involvement. Saya dah sebut public involvement. It is a cornerstone, a benchmark of EIA. Okay, different specific requirement. For example, access to information, procedure for notification and involvement of the public. Maksudnya, public tu maksudnya dia nak access EIA report nanti macam mana. Kita kena consider semua. And then procedure, macam mana kita nak notify public tu tadi untuk take, let's say kita nak conduct survey kepada masyarakat kat kawasan A katakan. So how we want to notify them and how we want to distribute our survey, whether online ataupun secara you print it out the questionnaire. So something like that. The procedure that have you conducted to get the public involvement. Okay. And then the stage of the EIA process at which these are applied and third party right of appeal. Maksudnya ada stage-stage dalam proses yang mana pihak ketiga, third party rights of appeal. Boleh macam let's say orang yang pihak ketiga tu maksudnya macam developers lah kan. Kalau dia punya projek tu telah macam tidak diluluskan kerana ada banyak kesan negatif kepada sekitar. So dia ada orang kata ada macam have the right to appeal, nak merayu. Merayu tu macam mana dia nak justify, nak defend diri dia untuk improve dia punya projek. Okay, public involvement should take account of the concern of those directly affected by a proposal. Maksudnya public involvement ni maksudnya kita dapatkan juga pendapat-pendapat public involvement ya untuk evaluate proposal itu tadi. Okay. So this component is a critical, okay, ni saya dah mention lah, very important ya for the effective EIA. Okay, next is quality control and assurance. Okay, within EIA system, the component described above provide a set of legal and institutional control on the quality and effectiveness of the process. Ya, semua komponen tu akan menyediakan satu information untuk get the quality and effective of EIA report. So they need to work together lah, semualah dalam EIA system. And in addition, the main stage of the EIA process itself constitute a further set of procedural check and balance. Maksudnya dalam sesuatu EIA proses tu sebenarnya dia ada macam check and balance. Kalau kat sini ada masalah, how you want to overcome it. Maksudnya kita boleh duduk bersama dan discuss ya, boleh justify sesuatu negative effect tu tak semestinya tak ada penyelesaian. Kita boleh check ya, check and balance ya. Oh, tu that is the first component. Second component of EIA, the step and activities of the EIA process as applied to specific type of proposal. Okay, this is the second component ya, proposal ya, in regards to the step and activities. Okay, the particular component, stage and activity of an EIA process will depend upon the requirement of the authorities. Dia kena abide lah dengan requirement of the, let's say kalau dia buat dekat kerajaan persekutuan. So jurisdiction of the EIA process that falls under the federal state, federal undang-undang kerajaan persekutuan. Dia kena abide lah, kena mematuhi keperluan ataupun yang telah di gazetted in those federal laws. Okay. However, most EIA process have a common structure and the application of the main stage is a basic standard of good practice. Biasanya dia ada proses dia tu sama je. Nanti saya akan listkan ya, proses dia macam mana. Proses EIA sendiri tu macam mana, sama je. Okay. And then, okay, typically the EIA process begin with screening ya. Kita akan mulai dengan screening. Okay, I show you. This is the EIA flow chart. Okay, saya cerita kat sini lah supaya kamu nampak gambaran how we can come up with the EIA process. Okay, so first you have the proposal identification. Adalah kita dah terima proposal, kita dah identify and then we do the screening. Screening ni is the first stage lah in the EIA process. Okay, so masa screening kita akan decide whether the initial environmental examination, kalau ada sama ada projek tu dia effect environment ke tak. Kalau effect, yes, kita kena ada EIA required lah. Kalau tak, no EIA report is required. Okay, and then we do the second one is scoping. Scoping ni actually refers to we listed out all the mitigation strategies that need to be conducted for those development, and then we try to avoid the unnecessarily cost. Maksudnya kita cuba kenal pasti proses-proses yang terlibat sahaja. Kalau proses ataupun yang memerlukan kos yang tak perlu ke, kita tak nak terima lah, kita abaikan. Kita macam buang masa kan. So kita tak nak tu, kita fokus kepada strategi yang menguntungkan sahaja ya. Scoping kita analyse yang mana menguntungkan, yang mana tak perlu kita akan buanglah, kita tolak. And then we have the impact analysis. Okay, kesan inilah impact, and then mitigation and impact management, kita manage, and then we can come out after that the EIA report. Dah ada EIA report and then adalah badan yang akan review, and then from this actually public involvement akan terlibat at the scoping stages and review. Kat sinilah kita akan dapat pendapat public, pendapat daripada pihak-pihak ekspertis lain daripada tim kita. Kita akan review semua. So by this two public involvement, then decision making, pihak-pihak berwajib akan decide sama ada approve ataupun tak approve projek tu. Kalau tak approve, mungkin projek tu perlu di redesign and resubmit. Ini kalau approve, then we can implementation and follow up. Follow up ni maksudnya kena sentiasa monitor kesan pembangunan tu terhadap alam sekitar. So the information from the process contribute to effective futures EIA. So kalau kita dah berjaya implement DIA ni, so dia akan menjadi macam like rujukanlah kepada next EIA yang akan dijalankan selepas ini. Okay. Okay, so the third component is the practice and performance of EIA. Ini yang bahagian ketiga. EIA, practice ya, practice and performance ya. Okay. So the quality of EIA practice and outcome varies widely reflecting the legal provision. Biasanya dia punya practice dan juga hasil dia tu pelbagai lah. Bergantung kepada legal provisions. Oh, ada yang baru nak join, okay. Legal provision, institutional arrangement and procedures that are in force of different jurisdiction. Pelbagai pihak lah yang terlibat. In addition, the quality of EIA practice varies on a case by case. Ya. Lain case lain lah. Case environment macam ni, industrialization macam ni, okay. Within the same system, depending upon event, tempat tu sendiri ataupun event tu sendiri, the complexity of the proposal, the experience of those involved and the time and money allocated. Budget juga mengambil kira lah kesan terhadap EIA practice tersebut. Okay, the strength and weaknesses of EIA practice are well documented in the literature generally and with reference to the experience of certain countries and type of project. So kita akan jugalah kalau EIA tu practice tu very well, macam juga kamu buat research, FYP ke apa, kalau result kamu tu bagus, kamu boleh publish journal, betul tak? Sama jugalah dengan EIA ni. Sama case kalau dia macam bagus pelaksanaan dia, so dia akan menjadi future reference for the next project. Itu maksudnya dia boleh inilah documented dan menjadi rujukan for other certain countries and then other type of project. Okay, so this is the most common and widely recognized deficiency of EIA practice include, okay, yang biasa ni lah, deficiency ni maksudnya masalah yang dihadapi lah dalam pelaksanaan EIA ni. For example, we have the technical shortcomings. For example, poor quality of many EIA report. Mungkin report tu ada tidak telus ke, tidak transparent ke, ada unsur political ke, campur tangan. So that one can be considered as poor quality lah. Okay, and so on. Ni technical shortcomings lah. And then we also have the procedural limitation, including inconsistent in process administration and guidance. Biasalah dalam pelaksanaan dia, sama ada semasa pelaksanaan ataupun semasa guidance proses tu ada ni lah time delays and cost. Adalah sama semua lah yang menyebabkan kepada ni lah kekurangan kepada pelaksanaan EIA tadi. And then the third one is structural issues stemming from the application of EIA as a separate process unrelated to the project cycle or the larger context of decision making. Maksudnya EIA tu tak sesuai dengan projek tu. So dia kadang EIA itu patutnya yang general, dia buat yang spesifik. So tak sesuai lah. And then itulah the larger context of decision making. Maksudnya dia refer kepada pihak yang tidak bersesuaian. So tidaklah berkesan lah EIA yang dijalankan tersebut. And then the lastly is the coherent policy planning framework and systematic follow-up procedures are not well established. Ini yang tak dijalankan dengan berkesan lah. Tak follow daripada framework yang kita dah ada tapi tak ikut. So dia boleh juga menyebabkan kepada ni lah kekurangan EIA tadi. Okay, last but not least, what constitute good outcome for EIA practice? Apa hasil yang bagus yang kita dapat daripada EIA practice ni? First, we can screen out the environmentally unsound project. Kita boleh screen out, kita boleh avoid projek-projek pembangunan yang tidak mesra alam, yang boleh negatively affect our environment. Kita boleh ni lah, boleh tidak luluskan ataupun kita boleh macam we can screen out, kita boleh buang terus. Tapi macam saya cakap lah, yang ini just a report, yang nak meneruskan ke tidak tu dia tak ada kuasa kan. So just a report, we can provide a report. Okay. And then second, modify the design of feasible proposal to reduce the environmental impact. Mungkin kadang setengah tu proposal tu nampak macam menguntungkan. Let's say nak bina apa, taman apa, kasino yang besar kat mana-mana ke, memang nampak menguntungkan. Tapi kalau dia boleh menyebabkan environmental impact, so mungkin kita boleh macam dia boleh modify kan, redesign balik supaya tidak memberi kesan yang keterlaluan kepada environment. And then the third one is identify the best practicable environmental option, ya. Kena identify lah the best, apa yang boleh dilakukan untuk elakkan kesan kepada alam sekitar ni. Predict the significant adverse effect of proposal with reasonable accuracy. We can predict, ya, adverse effect. And then identify mitigation measures that work successfully to avoid, reduce and offset major impact. Kita boleh kenal pasti langkah-langkah pencegahan yang boleh berjaya dijalankan. Mungkin kita boleh refer dengan projek-projek sebelum ni yang mana dia buat apa, langkah pencegahan macam mana. So kalau berjaya mungkin kita boleh follow that mitigation measures that have been taken from the previous project. Okay, 6, influence decision making and approval and the implementation of term and condition. Kita boleh memberi, orang kata macam a new idea ke, a new macam knowledge to the decision making. Biasanya kerajaan lah tentang sesuatu pelaksanaan EIA tersebut. And then result in environmental gain and benefit relative to other option. Kita boleh bagi ni lah jugalah. Maksudnya pembangunan tu sendiri tu boleh memberi impact yang bukan mengurangkan kurang kesan dia kepada environment, tapi juga boleh memberi at the same time boleh beri kata kesan yang positif kepada mungkin masyarakat sekitar ke tanpa mengorbankan environment. So kita nak yang macam itulah sustainable development. Okay, so that's all I think for today. So we have come out to the end of our lecture. So any question before I end and I discuss the assignment? Oh, they will join. Okay, I stop recording first.